conceptual order and talk about Daniel's history. My name is Joey Yates. I'm the curator here at KMAC, and this is Daniel Lee. Hello. I first became aware of Daniel's work probably nearly 20 years ago at Arts Watch. Most likely, yeah. Arts Watch, for some of you who may remember, was a great contemporary art space, nonprofit status, I believe. That was really one of the only places around at the time that would show young artists. They also showed national artists. But this was before, we had institutions that really sort of embraced contemporary art the way we do now, like here at KMAC. Yeah. And so Daniel's been really working through a lot of contemporary ideas and conceptual ideas for a long time and following his work. And we haven't, in all honesty, at KMAC done, that many sort of local solo exhibitions. And so this is really one of the first exhibitions by a local artist, hopefully more to come in this very similar manner. Not everybody's probably going to be able to probably have the same sort of survey that we have for Daniel, but at least to profile regional artists in sort of a similar way. And thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you.
I figured we would start here. Daniel and I think we'll probably end up referencing this many times, but the show is called The Ideal Viewer because it was inspired by a conversation we had a few years ago now about historic museums, museums like the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where a Cézanne often is very small, and the historic paintings you don't often get to see from a vantage point. There's definitely sort of a privileged vantage point for a lot of viewers. And how interesting would it be to hang at a point where Daniel could sort of more get a closer glimpse at them, but then we thought it'd be cool to do your own work this way.
Yes.
And so we're starting with some earlier work, and I know that you began as an artist, taking some courses, but really you kind of forged a sort of self-taught, not really self-taught, but you embraced ideas more than you did like formal art training, and so you left that behind.
Basically.
And so you worked through, what I like about this show is that it works through lots of genre, and some of the ideas that Daniel has embraced over the years is apparent in like different genres, from abstract geometry, geometric abstraction, to conceptual art, to sort of outsider art, and here where it really begins with you sort of photographing your own body.
Yes. That started really early 2000s. Although I didn't really get going for a while, so I didn't have a proper camera for a while. So finally got a proper camera. I started really just documenting myself. Almost, well, at first, it's because I was like greatly influenced by kind of body art and feminist art, but this feminist art, and kind of very like this very documentary, self-documentation type art. So.
And you started off painting and drawing.
I started off.
Were you still exploring painting?
Yeah, I was still painting and drawing for a while. There was a little bit of overlap, but at a certain point, when I started working on these works, I kind of quit painting and drawing for a long time. So first I did like a lot of like photography. I was greatly influenced, oddly enough, by not a whole lot of people actually do photography per se. I mean, I liked Yoko Ono's work, and I liked like performance artists who documented their own performances and stuff like that. And what were you saying?
But what drew you to sort of these conceptual looks at? I mean, you were kind of working through artists like John Baldessari or Lawrence Weiner. I know you mentioned. So sort of what helped spur this move away from drawing and painting as like a normal everyday kind of art making practice to these more idea driven sort of works?
All enough. I took a train to Nebraska to see a woman. Anyway, so I took a train to Nebraska to see a woman. Yeah. Omaha, Nebraska, know that. And I took a train to Nebraska to see a woman, and on the way there I brought 2 books. One of which was a very contemporary intense book on the history of modern art, and another which was a book on outsider art. And I read them both on the train, which was a full day. By the time I got to Nebraska, I was no longer a painter. We'll just say that. By the time I was greatly inspired by stuff I read in that book, and I got to the point where they started talking about conceptual art and body art and all this other stuff and feminist art.
And you found a rule book.
I found a rule book. I found like all these other people.
Break the rule.
I have all these other people I had to like look up. And it was a very basic book too. It wasn't like fancy. It was like just a review of modern art. It was like literally the history of art, 1900 to at the time 2000. So, right?
And what?
So it was.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, it was just crazy though. But by the time I got to Nebraska, it was like I got up my game. So I know that's kind of a weird thing to say. That short period of time, like literally a day. I've been thinking about it for a while. Like.
You felt like you had license to like put down
I felt like for a while I felt like I was painting because I was expected to paint. If that makes any sense. And after a while I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I used it as an excuse to just not do it anymore. So by the time I got back to Indiana, well, what was that? It was over.
But you knew that that maybe there was a way you could sort of excel at sort of maybe thinking through ideas quicker. Conceptual art sort of gave you a way to like move quickly, which you do. You don't really go back and visit too many of the ideas that you created. I mean, you haven't gone back and done text work quite like this before.
No, but I always like, you know, you make like a dish, you know, and you take some old part of the dish and you fold it into the new part of the dish, and you make some totally different dish, you know. Keep doing that over and over again to add to the soup. So I'm probably not, like I add text to my drawings all the time. You know, references to the human body all the time. And it's all there. It's just, and it has different flavors now. So.
And what about, so I want to talk a little bit about the directions and sort of the influence of these geometric pieces.
Okay.
And kind of, you know, I know that you were inspired by the kind of directions or about how Salvo would sort of give himself and other artists directions. And that kind of set you off on sort of another sort of foray into art making and conceptual art. So it wasn't just about you.
Right. These were kind of like early pattern works. I made a set of rules. I used a very basic shape, a circle. And then I just chopped it up into fours and I flipped it around and deleted certain areas. And it was just a way to not think. You know, you make a set of rules and you just do it. You don't have to think about it, you just do it.
And these were the first that you made that kind of went away from this more freehand style. These were the first that you made on like your tab, like a more digital.
Yeah, that was done on like a Wacom tablet. So
your kind of primary tool now.
Yes, like my primary tool for everything now. So I haven't held an actual pen or paintbrush in many of a year. So.
And then you kind of made these what you call fake paintings that were inspired by.
Mostly like Francis Bacon, total rip off of Francis Bacon of Italy. So I was like, I just wanted to make something that was interesting, and I wanted to get back to painting, but I couldn't really paint. Because of, well, you have to set the paints, and you have to do this, and you got to do that. So it's like, well, I'll do this, and I'll use this program. But most people usually do really cheesy things with this program, but I was like, well, I'm going to abuse this program and like force it to do things. So I kind of did that. And then each one, oddly enough, these took about as long as the drawings take to get it actually look like paint at all.
And how long is that?
Well, the skull took 8 hours. So these took about 8 hours.
In one sort of sitting? Or?
No, well, in the paintings, yeah, there were like maybe 2 sittings, maybe.
So, but you did this in one sort of pass?
No, I did the skull in 2 passes. But there was 2 4-hour passes.
And we talked about this earlier, but the way you can sort of manipulate the drawing component of this has that you can draw these areas. You can sort of zoom. You can blow up or sort of like expand an area, draw it, and then like sort of shrink it again, and you keep doing that sort of throughout.
Yeah, it's backing up from the work and going forward to the work, backing up, zooming in, zooming out, over and over again. Adding a little line here, a little line there. I can't see the whole piece until I back way up, and I draw them all 1-to-1. So if something's 24 by 36, I made a file that was 24 by 36 at 300 DPI. If you know anything about these things, it's a big file. So I did, just kept doing that over and over again, backing up. And then I might add a little white around the edge, so for framing purposes.
And we actually have some people here who I think have taken direction from you before.
Yeah, these.
And I know that so in some of these you give yourself parameters, like trying to draw flowers blindfolded, or what happens to a campus after you give yourself these tools or these trials to kind of go through. But then in the instance of this grid painting by Denise, you've given other people sort of.
Yeah, I did. I gave her the exact same rules as I gave Gibbs Rosenthal, and then I see which one. I see what each different person did with the rules. Gibbs, for example, added little white lines, which were in the rules or were not in the rules. So I'll let it go, for example, And Letitia Pleasenberry had her own way of doing things, and everyone had their own way of doing things, And I was totally cool with that. So, the rules, they took a while to write up. So I try to word things good, make them understandable. With I try.
And then another grid is this instance where you kind of source various wheelchairs off the internet.
Yeah, all these 170 wheelchairs are from Craigslist. And I literally scoured every single board on Craigslist, every major city, and just typed in wheelchairs to see what popped up until I had 170 of them, and then I fitted them all out. It's a lot of times my work is kind of like this. I make these rules that are very simple rules, and then I do them very, very straight until they're just absurdity of it all. I like the idea that something's absurd. You make a rule and you follow the rules, so no matter how absurd the rule is, you follow it straight. And I kind of took that idea with Solo Wit. Solo Wit was said, just follow the rules of the work and it will work out. It kind of makes its own logic after a while.
In some ways, it's just sort of like a daily studio routine. Just give yourself a set of parameters every day.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Exactly.
And then the drawings. I know you talked a little bit about how there's like a relationship between text is still there. You still work on a grid. You still work. It looks when you look at the show that you're actually working through all these different media. But there has been. I don't know if you noticed this before this particular instance, because you've never shown this kind of period before, like this much span of work before.
No.
That there actually is a kind of way that you end up still borrowing from these ideas that you've always used.
Yeah, kind of like a tool chest. A good tool chest could do everything. A little bit of everything in it. So I kind of have a tool chest I've kind of compiled over years. So I try to work it as I can. So. And
then you've got this pedestal here, which I think we talked about this in the beginning, but everything in the room as an ideal viewer, rather than it being hung for one particular kind of viewer, it's all hung for a very specific person. So
yes.
Works that were on loan or made by other artists are hung for them, but then there's also this absurdity that I think that was embraced by giving works that maybe didn't have an owner or didn't have a previous kind of association with your work, and giving them absurd vantage points. And so this was one that is
we made this one.
Remade works that are in the show.
Yeah, we made this one for Tim Furnish on his tiptoes.
Right.
So we used Tim Furnish because he was the tallest guy we knew. We're like, yeah, who's the tallest person we know? We both knew. Tim will work. Yeah, so.
But there was also like this idea that in a show where we're going to have sculpture, a pedestal to be a great object to make absurdly tall.
Exactly. And the original piece was an actual wheelchair, like an actual electric wheelchair that we painted gold.
A public monument.
It was a public monument, which oddly enough, I never actually saw. I only just wrote up the rules. I just wrote up how to make it. Someone else made it, and it was put up somewhere, but I never actually saw it. So Jennifer saw it, though.
I saw it once.
Yeah, Jennifer saw it. We were on the bus one day. She's like, "There it is." And I'm like, "Where?"
It was up for a couple of years.
Yeah, it was a couple of years. I never actually saw it face to face. So it was just insane.
How do you feel about like remaking work like this, and then you've remade other works? Is that something you haven't really done that before?
No, I've never done it before, but I always tell myself if I had to, I would. Yeah, like some works, like the punctured canvas, stone canvas, for example. I'll think to myself, I'm totally gonna have to remake this work one day. I still have the rock from the first stones to canvas, so I can technically remake the work just like using the second rock if I had to. But we decided to make everything kind of on the small side because it was kind of silly, and I like silliness. So, yeah, basically.
And then there's a box over here I did want to talk about also. There was a KMAC exhibition.
Oh yeah, me and James Millar from the KMAC, well, not the KMAC, from the Kwanzaa night, worked on this portfolio of these kind of text, what I like to refer to as text sculptures. What happened was like I started writing these instructions on how to make these works, and they progressively became more and more absurd to the point where they were impossible to make. I was like, someone like dig a hole to the center of the earth and fill it with cello or something like that. So like stuff like that, right? And they were progressively getting more and more and more absurd to make. And the instructions started from like 20 instructions to like 10 to 5 to 4 to 3. Now they're just 1. And then it didn't make us. Then I was like, screw it, no instructions anymore. I was just write down the piece like there, a box of crimson light. So you can't really make them anymore. You can't even make them.
So we did an exhibition about where people took different printmaking techniques, and Nathaniel collaborated with a printmaker who found some of these what you thought was absurd and impossible to recreate, but in fact he found these nice connections between different printmaking techniques that were kind of evoked within the absurd text sculpture. And so a box of Crimson Silence becomes like a print flocked in red velvet and put into a box.
Yeah.
But these are nice sort of both conceptual and aesthetic exercises that other artists can participate in, but you also can participate in.
Yeah. I kind of like working with other people. Kind of like the whole once removed thing.
Which is what you do. I mean, when you work through other people's kind of conceptual frameworks, you interpret their sort of directions and give it sort of a new kind of position.
Yeah. So.
Somebody have any questions?
Yeah, any
about
questions at all? No such thing as that.
No?
These drawings, were mostly, I should be noted, like when I make a series of, I don't really do works per se, I do shows. And when I was working on those drawings over there, those are mostly inspired by like token stuff. And oddly enough, like really bad heavy metal album covers. Kind of like thrash metal, a lot of thrash metal was listening to, a lot of black metal was listening to, horrible stuff. For like, I have to do it to make, I have to like get myself in this mindset when I do a series of works. So when I do drawings, I listen to that stuff and I read about that stuff,
And you're still kind of channeling this narrative about the body and different bodies.
Yeah, I still shove it through my own filter, kind of take it all.
And you never want to go totally abstract. There's always going to be a figure in there, right?
I don't know if I'll never go abstract. I'm only 40. I mean,
You're getting there.
What? Those are there. Those are. Yeah, basically. But I don't know. Probably one day. So, here we go. I would say there's a sculpture show with me somewhere. but it's kind of have the opportunities to do it.
There's some great sculptures there.
Yeah, but like yeah. So, anyone have any questions at all?
Can you talk a little bit about the golden wheelchair?
Oh,
About
sure.
maybe its meaning. Or...
The initial meeting was kind of like I traveled around in it. It became my throne, and I had it forever. This thing was a beater, so like there was holes in it, and you could see springs popping out of it, and everything. After a while, it became like a suit I wore every day. And when it finally died, I wanted to have one last hurrah. So when I was approached to make it work for the Phoenix Hill Association by like Aaron Conaway, I was like, okay, I'll do this.
To have immortalized this journey.
This one last hurrah for that wheelchair. So, like baby shoot it, but then, it only lasted a couple of years. It was out in the rain and the snow and the elements for I think like 3 years. And it just kind of disintegrated. It's probably in a dumpster somewhere now. But my point is, now, it got its last hurrah. So.
Well, I think it has another hurrah here in this one.
Yeah.
It was on a pedestal, wasn't it?
It was on a pedestal by Nico, yes. Faux marble pedestal. So.
Well, thanks everyone.
Thanks.
We'll be here if you have any questions.
Yeah.
Please feel free to ask. Thank you.
So